Hey, hello, it is great to see you again. It's me, Swofford, currently wearing the Heartbreaker t-shirt. We're going to do a production breakdown of my recent single, Honest. I'm so excited to get into these projects with you guys. I think this is one of my best songs. We'll switch over to a view where you can see my face, but you can also see my computer screen. I could do a green screen thing. I don't feel like it. We're probably just gonna have me in a box. Okay, let's go. Okay, we're in. Now, would you believe me if I told you that I already shot this last night? 27 minutes of footage. My camera battery, I was using an old knockoff one. Deleted everything. I had a justifiable crash out. Now it's the next day, and I'm doing it again. But we're gonna go into the project. I've got all of these projects open. First, we've got the demo project. This is the main project, the one I kind of exported all the stems out of for final mixing, and then I have like the mix project. If we look at the demo, you know, compared to the final song, it's pretty minimalist, right? We only have 42 instrumental tracks and roughly 50 vocal tracks. You know, that's nothing, right? We're really going back to basics here. But there's not a lot of difference between the demo and the final song. Actually, this is one of the songs that I have changed the least from demo to final. There is not a song that I have changed less because it was just already so good. But there were a couple things that I felt needed to be changed. First of all, the guitar layers. Generally when I demo, I don't like to play guitar because it takes a lot of time and I'm frankly not very good at it. So I have all of these VST guitars in here in the demo. For example, these chords here. And then these mutes. And then these kind of melodies here. And then as you can see in the final 2025 project, we have all of this guitar that I played and recorded myself, which we'll get into more later. I originally demoed this in December 2023, so the song is about a year and a half old at this point. But I just released it. I think I generally leave my songs sitting for that long because I'm always thinking about, you know, album cycle and things. I think the shortest turnaround I ever had on a song was probably Love Work, which I wrote in May 2024 and put out in August 2024. And then the main other thing that I have changed from the demos is obviously the vocals. Whenever I re-record a song, when I'm finishing it up, polishing it up, I generally always re-record everything because generally the demo vocals, when I'm recording a demo, it's not about sounding good, it's about just getting the song on the record so that I can think about it and then later come back and do a good job with it. Nowhere else is this more apparent than in my falsetto because my falsetto was not very confident or comfortable back then. And I can show that by comparing, for example, like the pre-chorus.
And we don't really do a lot of talking, cause we don't really got a lot in common. I turn you on, but you're unresponsive.
So that's in 2023. And then if we go over to 2025 and we find the same thing here.
And we don't really do a lot of talking, cause we don't really got a lot in common.
It sounds so much more supported. And then you add in, of course, the doubles and the harmonies.
We don't really got a lot in common. I turn you on, but you're unresponsive. Just be honest.
And you can see that that is just so much more supported. And thank God, right? Because sometimes a song has to marinate for a while before you can put it out. And sometimes your skills don't even match up to where you want it to be. Oh, this brings me to, there is only one lyric that I changed in this whole song. It all stayed the same except for one word. I think I take after Max Martin a little bit, and the most important thing for me when writing lyrics, it's all about the mouthfeel, right? It's all about how does it chew. So there's one lyric that I changed, and the main reason that I changed it was so it would chew better, and that is this lyric right here.
In another lifetime or a different timeline, no, we would even be friends.
And then in 2025,
in another lifetime or a different timeline, like we would even be friends.
Did you catch that? It's really brief, but I changed one word, and that is it went from in another lifetime or a different timeline, like we would even be friends. And in the original demo, it's that we would even be friends. In another lifetime or a different timeline that we would even, you'd change it to in another lifetime or a different timeline, like we would even, it flows so much better because with like, it both alliterates with lifetime, timeline, it has the L carries over, and then lifetime, timeline, like, they're all I vowels. So that is the one change that I made. Okay, let's look at the demo versus the final mix. Obviously, as you can see, the final master is more of a brick. Now, I'm not necessarily here to rant about the loudness wars, but the thing is, if this looks like it's been mastered loud, it has, but download any of your favorite pop songs and compare them, and you will see they are bricked up. Well, you know, not like that. So let's go back and forth between the demo and the final version just a little bit, right?
Everything is self-frustrating. I just wanna keep it straight so I can
You can really hear all those frequencies that have been pushed, the way it's just been made louder and richer.
even be fair.
Of course, the new guitars.
And we don't really do a lot of talking, 'cause we don't really got
It's just the way it goes from an idea to a complete finished song. God, it's so good.
just be honest. I don't wanna hurt you, baby, but every bed we tried to make it real, but on a date it's a train wreck.
Yeah, I think you get the idea. Let's go into the final project. This one has 63 instrumental tracks and it's 67 vocal tracks, I suppose. So, you know, that's more like it. What should we start talking about? Let's start with the drums. Of course, we have the same percussion from the original demo. And this snare sound I really love. I have combined this snare with this one because this snare gives this clap boom, and this clap gives the snare punch or snap, and they come together and it sounds perfect. And of course I have compressed it to high hell and added a reverb because without it, it's just like, okay, what is that? But then you make it sound perfect with that reverb. This reverb is like an 80s gated reverb, of course. I love Valhalla Vintage Verb. There are only a few plugins I've ever bought, and Valhalla Vintage Verb is one of those that I don't regret buying. So that's what the snare sounds like if it's only the reverb. I love a cowbell, and then just some shakers. And then I guess next is the bass. So I have to combine two basses here, right? I love the DX7 bass. I mean, that's a classic synth sound of the 1980s. But the thing is, all these mixes from the actual 80s, they're a little bit shallow, they're kind of weak, and that's by modern standards, of course. They sounded great on those hi-fi systems back then. But you're not mixing for someone's hi-fi, you're mixing for someone's headphones. Because I feel like the DX7, it doesn't have a ton of sub, and I feel like sub bass is so important in today's like headphone mixes. So I've combined it with the sub bass from the Korg M1, which I find actually is a pretty impressive sub to it. But then you combine them both, and it sounds like the DX7 bass, but also has a good sub range to it. So you get that 80s sound with that modern mix quality. Even though, you know, the Korg M1, it is a synth from 1989, but you know, I'm just mixing for modern standards. Let's talk about the guitars a little bit, but I am not a good guitarist. One day I'll get around to really learning it. I really will. That day is not today, but I did take, for example, some of these ideas from these fake guitars. Like I had just kind of strummed chords here. And then I did something a lot like that here. Yep. And then I have these kind of disco, kind of funky strums here. This is so funny. The way that I get good sounding guitar, even though I'm not good at guitar, is when I'm recording guitar, I'll slow the project down to like 60 beats per minute. And I will play that note by note. And then I will speed her back up and arrange it how it needs to be arranged. Ooh, and then this is delicious. This envelope you see on top of these drums, that is controlling the low pass. It just kind of starts fading in from low, and I love how that sounds. So then if we look at the keys and synths, this is what we're working with. The keys are super simple. I mean, this is just the Korg M1 electric piano, as 80s as it gets, really. If that isn't the most 80s sound, gotta love it. And then I have these kind of synths that are playing in the background of the chorus. These are also the Korg M1, I believe. I believe in vintage synth supremacy. Don't get me wrong, I use Serum honestly pretty often, but at the same time, if you can find a vintage synth that fits into your song and you can just put saturation on it, put a modern reverb on it, EQ it to perfection, why wouldn't you? I have a dead stock Casio tone keyboard over there from 1988, and I'm gonna make a video opening that, and you guys are going to love it. No song of mine is complete without some arpeggiators in the background. Yeah, pretty good. I love that magical sound of some 80s synths, a wash and reverb. You know, I need to venture more into dream pop, I feel like. One other thing that I added between 2023 and 2025 was this synth right here. Because originally, after the verse vocal lines concluded, there was just kind of a chord movement.
Just be honest, what does it say about us that we can't even pretend?
And I was just like...
In another lifetime,
But I noticed after I played the real guitar, it sounded kind of empty there, in the same spot.
about us that we can't even pretend.
And then they're just like, what? It feels empty. And I was just thinking about like, what can I fill in there? And then I started to imagine like a synth, and I was probably gonna go like, boom, bum, 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 bum. And that's what I added in because it felt like it sounded right. And when I added it, it did sound right.
We can't even pretend. In another
Yep. Okay, and then I guess really last but not least at all, we can look at some vocal stacks. So we have at the end here.
We don't really do a lot. Why can't we just be honest? Honest. I don't wanna hurt
Is that a
you,
cloud?
baby. But every time we talk, I'm thinking, why
Oh wait,
can't we
yeah.
just be honest?
It's in the honest. So if we break down this vocal stack at the end, of course, every chorus adds more in. You want to build up a song as you go along. We have just the lead.
Why can't we just be honest? I don't
And this is
wanna
what my
hurt
chain
you,
looks like.
baby, but every time we talk, I'm thinking, why can't we just be honest?
And then these delays in the background go back and forth between the ears, just creating a little bit of an ethereal quality. And then doubles in both ears.
I don't wanna hurt you, baby.
And that's how it sounds
Every
combined
time
with
we
the
talk,
lead.
I'm thinking, why can't we just be honest?
And then we have the octave up.
I don't wanna hurt you, baby. Every time we
And
talk, I'm
harmonies.
thinking, why can't we just be honest? Everything is so frustrating. I just wanna keep it straight. So why can't we just be honest? I don't wanna hurt you, baby, but every time we talk, I'm thinking, why can't we just be honest?
So that's all the lead vocals. And then if we go into the background, then we have some spoken pieces which go over the top, and that builds up over the course of the song.
Why can't we?
And then we have some ahs that kind of follow the chords. And then we have the echoes that are like, honest.
Honest. Everything is so frustrating. I just wanna keep it straight. So why can't we just be honest?
So that's how you have, you know, like 70 vocal tracks. Of course, I do separate a lot of things by part, which increases the total amount of tracks, but it just keeps it all organized. I mean, it's a godsend when you're actually tracking. And then all the way down here at the bottom, I have all my guide melodies because I plan most everything out because, you know, I don't have perfect pitch. If you're just doing guesswork on your harmonies and you're not like a virtuoso, then you're probably gonna have some stuff that sounds kind of weird. But I just plan everything out. Generally, I put my guide melodies as purple. And then if you look in here, this is kind of how I track them out. My digital audio workstation gives each pitch a color. And so I've gotten pretty good at making chords based on color. It works well in my synesthetic brain, you know what I mean? It's crazy how much my singing improved over these 2 years. And I know like I don't really put my all into a demo recording, but still. Then if we go over to the mixing project, basically what I do is I'll take all of these 130 tracks and I'll mix them down into like 30, 40, 50 tracks that I feel like can be more easily managed, more mix downs, and then I work with those to create the final mix, and I separate them by category, and then I mix those categories. It seems complicated, but it gives it kind of a pyramid structure that makes it easy for my brain to understand. Believe it or not, Honest is the only song I've like ever mixed in one go. Most of the time, my project files are just, the mixing folder is just full of projects, right? Because I make tiny adjustments and everything. But I sat down, I locked in, and I mixed the song in one go. I think it took like 30, 45 minutes. And then I was like, that's pretty good. And of course, the main thing about the mixing project is you're gonna have frequencies ducking other frequencies. Like, you'll see this on this EQ, we have number 2 going down like that. That's actually ducking the vocal because you see this frequency around 500 hertz. My voice has a lot of that. So whenever I'm singing, that frequency gets taken out of the bass, but it's just that frequency so it doesn't affect the sub, right? Because I could just straight sidechain it, but that wouldn't make sense. I think I do have the synth and potentially the keys straight up just ducking the vocals. If I'm correct. Or maybe not. Fact check. Okay, yeah. I do have another frequency that's really important for the vocals is around that 2 to 5K range. So in the keys, I have that frequency ducking the vocals. Using, I think it's, yeah, audio control signal on this. It's technical, right? But it's the only way to get it perfect. Yeah, it's ducking the vocal and it's ducking the kick. Which I think everything's ducking the kick, because when you have a 4 on the floor rhythm, I mean, it just makes sense. You can hear there's just kind of that's what gives it that punch. At the end of the day, what matters about your song is your drums, your bass, and your lead vocal, maybe your chords. Like, if I literally just take out the main keys, the bass, the drums, and the lead vocal,
why can't we just be honest? I don't wanna hurt you, baby.
I mean, it doesn't sound that full, but that's a full song, you know? So those are the things you need to be prioritizing for. The bass ducks under the drums. The bass also ducks under the vocals, but only the mid frequencies of the bass. You have the bass and the kick drum laying the foundation, and then everything else comes on top of that. Guitars, synths, they all fit around the vocal stack, and all the background vocals fit behind the lead vocal. And as you add more stuff in, you get that fuller sound. Guitars, keys, synths. And then you have a super full sounding song. But you can't forget the most important elements. I used to have a pretty simplistic mixing flow, and back then, I would say that I was not optimizing for those parts of my songs, and so my vocals would get a little bit lost sometimes, or they would be too loud because I wasn't properly sidechaining. One thing about me is I will always release my instrumentals. I do not like that most artists don't release their instrumentals, but I also kind of get it because most artists are just singers. Me being a producer as well, I do all of this stuff. If I don't release my instrumental, well then a lot of the stuff that I produced is getting buried under my vocals, which I like my vocals, but you know, I like to appreciate the beats too. Oh, and then this, I think this is just, this is like an extra treble boost for the vocals. I saw this trick once. You take the vocal, you cut off to just the top frequencies, you compress the shit out of it, and then you just mix it really quiet next to the vocals. And it just adds a crispy layer on top.
I just wanna keep it straight, so why can't we just be honest? I don't wanna hurt you, baby, but every time we talk, I'm thinking, why can't we just be honest?
Okay, I feel like I have shown all the highlights. I'm thinking I'll probably give you guys some stems on Patreon, and this full, I'll just put the full stream on Patreon with the rough edges and everything. Whew, a lot of stuff to do. I'm so glad I've gotten to show you guys my song breakdown again. I always love to show off my production. I do all of it. But for now, like if you like it, dislike if you didn't, share if your friends need to see it, subscribe if you want to see more production breakdowns, and I will see you on the flip side.